Imagine a world where pleasure is always at your fingertips, but true satisfaction remains elusive. Welcome to Dopamine Nation. And you're driving home after a long day at work. You're exhausted, but as you pull into your driveway, you realize you've been scrolling through your phone the entire time. You don't even remember the drive. Sound familiar? Or maybe you found yourself mindlessly opening the refrigerator for the 10th time today, even though you're not hungry. Or perhaps you've stayed up way too late binge-watching that new series, despite knowing you have an important meeting in the morning. If any of this resonates with you, you're not alone. We're living in an age of unprecedented abundance and instant gratification. But instead of making us happier, it's leaving us more stressed, anxious, and unfulfilled than ever before. I'm your host, and you're listening to CEO's Library, the 1% bookshelf. Today, we're diving into a book that explains why we keep chasing the next high, even when we know it's not good for us. We'll explore how our modern world of abundance is rewiring our brains and fueling addictive behaviors, and most importantly, we'll discover practical strategies to reset our brain's reward system and find balance in our dopamine-driven world. Our guide for this journey is Dr. Anna Lembke's groundbreaking book, Dopamine Nation: Finding Balance in the Age of Indulgence. Dr. Lembke is the medical director of addiction medicine at Stanford University School of Medicine and a renowned expert in the treatment of addictive disorders. So buckle up. Whether you're a busy executive looking to break free from your smartphone addiction, an entrepreneur seeking to build healthier habits, or simply someone who wants to understand why it's so hard to resist that extra slice of cake, this episode is for you. Let's start by exploring what Dr. Lembke calls the dopamine dilemma. Have you ever wondered why you keep reaching for your phone, even when you know it's not making you happy? Why do we continue to engage in behaviors that we know aren't good for us in the long run? The answer lies in a tiny molecule in our brains called dopamine. Dopamine is often referred to as the feel-good neurotransmitter, but its role is actually more complex than that. It's not just about pleasure, it's about motivation and reward prediction. When we encounter something potentially rewarding, like a notification on our phone, a delicious meal, or even a potential mate, our brains release a burst of dopamine. This creates a feeling of anticipation and motivates us to pursue that reward. In our ancestral environment, this system worked well. It motivated us to seek out food, water, and social connections, all crucial for survival. But in our modern world of abundance, we're surrounded by supernormal stimuli that hijack this system. Think about it. Our smartphones are like slot machines in our pockets, offering the potential for a dopamine hit with every notification. Social media platforms are designed to keep us scrolling, each like or comment giving us a little boost. Even our food has been engineered to be more rewarding than anything our ancestors encountered. Dr. Lembke explains that this constant exposure to highly rewarding stimuli is changing our brains. We're developing a tolerance, meaning we need more and more stimulation to get the same effect. This leads to a cycle of compulsive overconsumption as we chase that elusive dopamine high. Let me give you a real-world example. Sarah, a high-powered executive, found herself constantly checking her email, even during family dinners and late at night. She told herself it was necessary for her job, but deep down she knew it was more than that. The anticipation of a new message, the possibility of good news, or a problem to solve, it gave her a little thrill each time. But over time, Sarah noticed she was feeling more anxious, not less. She was having trouble focusing on tasks that didn't provide instant feedback. Her sleep was suffering, and her relationships were strained. She was caught in the dopamine dilemma. The very behaviors she thought were helping her succeed were actually undermining her well-being. This pattern isn't limited to technology. We see it with food, shopping, gambling, and even exercise. The common thread is the compulsive pursuit of reward driven by our dopamine system. So what can we do about it? The first step is awareness. By understanding how our brain's reward system works, we can start to recognize when we're caught in a compulsive cycle. Try this. The next time you reach for your phone or open a social media app, pause for a moment. Ask yourself, am I doing this because I need to, or am I seeking a quick hit of dopamine? What am I feeling right now? Bored, anxious, lonely? This simple act of mindfulness can help break the automatic nature of these behaviors. Another strategy is to create friction. Make it a little harder to engage in the compulsive behavior. For example, you could move social media apps off your home screen or use app blockers during certain hours. For Sarah, this meant setting up specific times to check email and turning off notifications outside of those times. Remember, the goal isn't to eliminate all pleasurable activities from our lives. That's neither possible nor desirable. Instead, we're aiming for balance. And to understand how to achieve that balance, we need to explore the surprising relationship between pleasure and pain. This brings us to our next key insight from Dopamine Nation, the pain-pleasure balance. What if I told you that to feel more pleasure, you need to embrace pain? It sounds counterintuitive, doesn't it? Our society is obsessed with the pursuit of happiness and the avoidance of discomfort. We have pills to numb our physical pain, apps to distract us from emotional pain, and a multi-billion-dollar self-help industry promising to eliminate all suffering from our lives. But Dr. Lemke argues that this approach is fundamentally misguided. In fact, it may be making us more miserable in the long run. To understand why, we need to dive into the neuroscience of pleasure and pain. Dr. Lemke explains that our brains have a delicate balance between our pain and pleasure systems. When we experience something pleasurable, our brain's reward system is activated, but immediately afterward, our pain system kicks in to bring us back to baseline. Think of it like a seesaw. When one side goes up, the other must come down to maintain balance. The problem is, in our modern world of abundant pleasures, we're constantly pushing down on the pleasure side of the seesaw. Our brains respond by ramping up the pain side to compensate. This is why the initial high of a new relationship fades over time, or why that first bite of chocolate cake is always the best. It's also why addicts need more and more of their drug of choice to get the same effect. Let me illustrate this with a story from the book. Dr. Lemke describes a patient named Jacob who was addicted to pornography. Jacob started watching porn as a teenager, and at first it was incredibly rewarding, but over time he needed to watch more extreme content to get the same effect. Eventually, even that wasn't enough. He was spending hours each day watching porn, neglecting his work and relationships, but he wasn't even enjoying it anymore. Jacob's experience is a stark example of the pain-pleasure balance in action. The more he pushed on the pleasure side of the seesaw by consuming porn, the more his brain pushed back on the pain side. Eventually, his baseline shifted to the point where he felt awful when he wasn't watching porn, but he couldn't derive pleasure from it either. This principle applies to many areas of our lives, not just extreme addictions. Have you ever noticed how a vacation is incredibly enjoyable at first, but by the end you're kind of ready to get back to your routine? Or how that new gadget is exciting when you first get it, but soon becomes just another thing you own? Understanding this balance can be incredibly liberating. It means that by voluntarily embracing some discomfort, we can actually increase our capacity for pleasure. This is the principle behind many traditional practices like fasting or cold water immersion. By temporarily depriving ourselves, we reset our pleasure-pain balance. So how can we apply this in our daily lives? Here are a few strategies. 1. Practice delayed gratification. Instead of immediately giving in to every desire, try waiting. This could be as simple as holding off on checking your phone for an hour after you wake up, or saving your favorite TV show for the weekend. 2. Embrace healthy discomfort. This could mean taking cold showers, trying intermittent fasting, or pushing yourself in a workout. The key is to choose discomfort that's challenging but not overwhelming. 3. Mindfully experience both pleasure and pain. When you're enjoying something, really savor it. And when you're experiencing discomfort, try to observe it without immediately trying to escape. 4. Create contrast in your life. If you have a particularly indulgent meal, balance it with a period of clean eating. If you have a lazy weekend, follow it up with a productive week. Remember, the goal isn't to eliminate all pleasure from our lives. It's to find a sustainable balance that allows us to fully enjoy life's pleasures without becoming dependent on them. This brings us to our final key insight from Dopamine Nation: resetting the reward system. Let me share a story from the book about a woman named Delilah. Delilah was a successful marketing executive who had developed a severe addiction to prescription painkillers. She had tried to quit multiple times, but the withdrawal symptoms were so intense that she always relapsed. Finally, with Dr. Lemke's help, Delilah decided to try a radical approach: complete abstinence from all mood-altering substances, including her painkillers, alcohol, and even caffeine. The first few weeks were incredibly difficult. Delilah experienced intense cravings, mood swings, and physical discomfort. But something remarkable happened after about a month. Delilah started to feel good. Not the artificial high of the painkillers, but a genuine sense of well-being. Colors seemed brighter, food tasted better, and she found herself laughing more easily. She had successfully reset her brain's reward system. This process, which Dr. Lemke calls dopamine fasting, is a powerful tool for breaking the cycle of compulsive overconsumption. By temporarily abstaining from the problematic behavior or substance, we allow our brain's reward system to return to its natural baseline. Now, I know what you're thinking. I'm not addicted to painkillers. How does this apply to me? The truth is, we can all benefit from periodically resetting our reward systems. In our dopamine-saturated world, most of us are operating with a skewed baseline. Here are some strategies you can use to reset your own reward system. 1. Digital detox. Try going a day, a weekend, or even a week without social media or non-essential screen time. You might be surprised at how this changes your relationship with technology. 2. Dopamine fasting. Choose an activity you find yourself doing compulsively. It could be snacking, online shopping, or even checking the news, and abstain from it for a set period of time. 3. Mindfulness meditation. Regular meditation can help increase your awareness of your cravings and impulses, making it easier to resist them. 4. Exercise. Physical activity can help regulate your dopamine system and provide a natural, healthy source of reward. 5. Sleep hygiene. Prioritizing good sleep can help reset your circadian rhythms and improve overall brain function. 6. Nature exposure. Spending time in nature can help reduce stress and provide a break from the constant stimulation of modern life. Remember, the goal of these strategies isn't to permanently eliminate these activities from your life. It's to reset your baseline so that you can engage with them in a healthier, more balanced way. As we wrap up our exploration of Dopamine Nation, let's recap the main takeaways. First, we're living in an age of unprecedented abundance and access to pleasure. While this has many benefits, it's also leading to rising rates of addiction and related health problems. Second, understanding the neuroscience of reward can help us recognize when we're caught in compulsive cycles of behavior. Our dopamine system, which evolved to motivate us to seek out essential rewards, can be hijacked by the supernormal stimuli of modern life. Third, pleasure and pain are more intimately connected than we often realize. By embracing some degree of discomfort or delayed gratification, we can actually increase our capacity for pleasure and satisfaction. Finally, we all have the power to reset our reward systems. Through strategies like dopamine fasting and digital detoxes, we can return our brains to a healthier baseline and break free from compulsive behaviors. Dr. Lemke's work reminds us that true happiness doesn't come from constant stimulation or the pursuit of endless pleasure. Instead, it comes from finding a sustainable balance, a middle path between indulgence and abstinence. As you go about your day, I encourage you to reflect on your own relationship with pleasure and pain. Are there areas of your life where you might be caught in a cycle of compulsive overconsumption? Could you benefit from embracing a little more discomfort or delayed gratification? Try experimenting with some of the strategies we've discussed. Maybe start with a small digital detox, or practice mindfully observing your cravings without immediately acting on them. Remember, the goal isn't to eliminate all sources of pleasure from your life. It's to engage with them in a way that's truly satisfying and sustainable. By understanding and working with our brain's reward system, rather than against it, we can find greater balance, satisfaction, and well-being in our lives. We can escape the dopamine trap and rediscover the deep, lasting contentment that comes from living in harmony with our nature. Thank you for joining me on this exploration of Dopamine Nation. If you found this episode valuable, I encourage you to check out the full book. Dr. Lemke's work is filled with fascinating case studies, cutting-edge neuroscience, and practical strategies that can help us all live more balanced lives in our age of indulgence. You can find a link to purchase the book or audiobook in the episode description. And don't forget, you can view the full transcript of this episode, along with accompanying visualizations, at ceoslibrary.com. Until next time, this is CEO's Library reminding you that true success isn't just about chasing the next high, it's about finding balance and sustainable satisfaction in all areas of your life. Keep learning, stay curious, and remember, in the pursuit of happiness, sometimes less really is more.